This is the Lucie Beatrix podcast. On my show, I talk to the most hopeful, striving, and determined people that I can find. From my past life as a fashion model on the covers of magazines to my life now as a competitive athlete living here in New York City. Today's guest is J.R. Jensen. J.R. is an entrepreneur and athlete who created Trellis, which is a same-day delivery service going against the grain in that it empowers local business. On today's show, we're going to talk about competing with Amazon, running and community, as well as our common thread of sobriety. So stay tuned for the show with JR. Welcome.
Yeah. That was amazing. It was really cool to hear myself introduced like that.
It's always interesting hearing how you are like encapsulated.
Yeah. I gotta write that down. I like that one. Thank you.
Use it for something.
I appreciate that.
So welcome to my podcast. It's a very special inaugural video version of my podcast. I've had the show for several years, but now having it like this is a completely different format. So it's exciting to bring it to life in this way.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's a big step.
You're totally great. Like you're helping me I guess transcend into this visual component of the show. Yeah. But we have so many common denominators, and considering we only just met in the past hour or so, we did just get tacos across the street. Considering we just met, I've already determined that we have, 5 or 6 really big things in common. But I want to start, before we get into any of that, I want to go back to your upbringing and where you're from, who you are, and like everything up until the point that I met you. Oh, wow. How you can just, package yourself. Like, who are you? Where are you from?
Sure. So I'm really John Jensen, J.R. Jensen. J.R. came from just there being a lot of Johns. So we'll get that out of the way fairly quickly. But I grew up in Long Island, New York, right on in the suburbs, right next to Queens. So I was always going into the city and stuff, but have an older sister. My parents grew up in like suburbia. So I'm like a suburban kid for sure. And then I played hockey and I played drums. So I was always in bands and doing something. I was either touring or playing hockey. I was like that was like high school. It was quick, subculture-y type of stuff. Really opened my eyes. DIY, which we can probably talk about. That lends to a lot of stuff later on. But doing it yourself, just those punk rock ethos of, I don't know, anything that someone you see being done, you could do. Like, don't let yourself get in your own way type of stuff growing up. So that was like high school. And then I went into college. I didn't really know what to do really per se. I wanted to be a marine biologist, actually. For being completely honest, I did a 1.5 years of marine biology, wasn't working out. I went into business school. My parents were just like, well, you have this opportunity, just continue going, don't not. So I went to business school, got a BBA in accounting, quickly went right back to school for design, found like branding and the world of being creative that I was always like creating flyers and posters, and you really start to see those things being, I guess you can do it commercially. So like the sports kind of took a back end. The band picked up. I started touring with hardcore bands, working for them, my own band touring, US, Canada, a lot of that. So it was just a lot of like being active, which probably relates to a lot of other things too. And then from there, like finding that world that you can be creative and sustain yourself. Like I had my father was a retired vet from Vietnam who was a correction officer. And after I graduated with a degree in business, I was like, I'm going to go back to school for art. And I think his like heart dropped, but at the same time, he was the man that got me into art. He just never knew that was like a creative outlet that you can like live on. So he was super excited about that. So that was like, that kind of set the groundwork for making money in being creative.
And I feel like that speaks to the entrepreneurial spirit of, you do have to be creative and come up with something that's, completely, out of thin air, and then make it into a business and make it somehow profitable. And so I'm just curious, as far as your entrepreneur side, or like coming up with, your company, your startup, how did you get into that? Or like, I know there's probably so many processes of trial and error and trying to figure out how you're going to carve your way and make a mark as a startup owner. So how did you stumble into that world?
It was like years of doing other things, years of like, I don't want to call it failing, but years of doing things that just maybe didn't pan out, or that you pivot. There was like a record label I wanted to start, and I kind of did that on my own. It sunk money, but I learned. And then I did clothing companies with friends, like, in our 20s and younger, and just like doing things in the city, and that, like, those clothing lines never panned out, but those relationships are what I have now with those same guys we're doing running clubs together now. So like things never, like, the people you meet along those ways. But I ended up becoming my own freelance graphic designer and taking on work. And I met my business partner now 10 years ago doing that work for him with his agency. So it was learning and just not doing something. It was always doing something, and you never know which one is going to pan out.
Sometimes it's just taking shots in the dark and just going after something full on, learning all the skills as you go, as well as you possibly can in motion. But then sometimes things just segue and pivot, but along the way, you're learning so many invaluable skills that you can take with you to what you ultimately end up doing, which now ultimately you are working on your startup Trellis.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Exactly to your point though, I think it's like everything you learn, like, use that as your competitive advantage the next time around. Like, how does things relate? How does, like, anything in your world relate? Like, if you mesh them all together, that creates you. That's what, like, makes you super you. It makes you more unique. So you might not think something is valuable when you enter a room, but like, it is, because it is unique, where you think like this cookie cutter, your expectations of what you think someone should be for who they are. How do you differentiate from them? How do you and it's all those other, like, your unique journey, mashing that all up and then doing what you're doing now.
Oh, I totally see that. And even just when you mentioned the music just now, and you're like, because that was one of the things we didn't touch on right before I met you, but I go, music, punk rock. Oh my God. Yeah, you're my guy. Like, I immediately connect with you on that. And without even saying anything, because I'm like, if you know music, then you know me. Like, that can connect you with anyone, because it's just like such a strong thing that, that like you're in it or you're not. And so that's pretty cool. But I see what you're saying. And it's just, I've definitely noticed with my own life, with like navigating the world, is like finding those common threads with people instead of just being one singular thing, and using that dynamic, those dynamic interests to make you and relatable to way more people.
And that's like, that's really what Trellis is. To jump back to that. Yeah. Like, so where I am now is, being an entrepreneur, but I'm the creative director here. I am the CTO in the business. I've coded for us. I've done all the branding. I've designed everything. I built one of our websites. I work with the marketing team. I work with even the sales team. I work with the product team, and it's like all those different things. I was a UX designer for years. I was an art director in an interactive video startup for 2 years. I just, all those different things is like, now I'm doing it all together.
Got you to this point.
Yeah. And that's what's letting me, I feel like, be comfortable in this role of taking everything on and doing my own thing.
So explain Trellis to anyone who doesn't know.
Sure.
I mentioned briefly in the intro that it's empowering local businesses, same day delivery service, but explain it for yourself.
Right. So there's two business partners, super important part of the equation here. So I have to say, like, it's definitely not doing it on my own. I'm doing it with two other people, Adam Haber and Brian Berkery. And Adam actually came up with the idea. He's been trying to do this for years. He worked in economic development. He was trying to get actually our town, like where we live locally, to do this themselves, like to do a like a government private thing together, and it just didn't pan out. He was talking with Brian. Brian knew me, and Trellis, our same day delivery service, was born. Where, hey, the ethos are DoorDashes, Grubhubs, Drizzly, Amazon, they all take a percentage of the sale. So how can you say you're for small businesses, but before anything, you're taking 15, 20, 30% of a sale from a small business that their margins are super small. So when they brought this idea to me, I just thought it was the coolest, like again, those ethos, like this is like fighting the man type stuff, helping the small guy. I'm in. So I was like, I'm in. So that's Trellis. It's a same-day delivery service that helps small businesses offer same-day delivery to compete against the Amazons, DoorDashes, Walmarts. And a lot of those businesses are disguising their offering by saying, hey, we work with small businesses. We'll do this stuff for you. But they're really just trying to get small businesses to list their products in their own ecosystems to make more money off of small businesses by taking their margins. Mm-hmm. And that's what Trellis is not here for. We want to teach small businesses how to have their own Shopify website, how to do their own sales, and then, we'll do that delivery, sure, but like put the power in your own hands as a business, not like put them behind the 8 ball by being a necessary evil. You're on some of these platforms and it's like, if you're not on it, you miss the sale, but if you're on it, you're losing 30% of your sale. Like, which one do you want? And that's the heart of Trellis.
So it's a noble mission to empower and give back to the small mom and pop shops, and have them have this way to be competing and do the same day delivery stuff like the big names. But so how did you come up with that? Like, what was your, like, what inspired you,
Sure,
coming from where you come from?
Sure. It was even, like, I guess I'll say, I believe in stars have to align for sure. Mm-hmm. Before I was approached with this, I was working with a friend of mine who owned the coffee shop. And I had this idea that coffee shops, I get like, you get a little card from your local coffee shop. Every 10 you get a free coffee. And I was like, oh, I wish I can use that same card at other local shops. And I was like, and then that, like, co-oping that. So then, like, people love rewards, like their Starbucks rewards, your Dunkin' Donuts rewards. So you can use those everywhere and you get points and then you redeem it anywhere. So I had this idea of like co-oping local coffee shops. I just drink a lot of coffee, if you can't tell. You'll hear sooner or later, ramp in. But like, if I can co-opt them to like have a rewards program for shopping local, that you can use those rewards and not just have to go to the same coffee shop 10 times in a row, but go to 10 different coffee shops and then redeem that somewhere. That was actually what I was starting on when Brian and Adam approached me and saying like, hey, we're doing this on a grander scale. We want to co-op and help businesses, small businesses, like all small business, retail businesses, home-based businesses, offer delivery. And it was that same idea of like co-op, like working with small businesses. Mm-hmm. So those stars definitely had to align. And so I was in that mindset already, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
That I was already trying to work with local businesses to help them compete against like corporate businesses.
The man.
Yeah, sure. But like, and they're not all bad, they do good things, they help, but it's like you have a fighting chance. It gives character, have both. I don't know. That's my take on it. I
totally see that. And I think there is this kind of in between where people are very much against like corporate, like big corporations, but at the same time it's like, well, like there's arguments for both sides, but it's this idea of this middle ground of meeting people where they're at and having a way to not shut out the smallest, like smaller, more, I don't know, like family run businesses.
Yeah.
And it just seems like an interesting thing to be so passionate about. But I'm just curious, like how much of your entrepreneurial mindset, when did that come out of you? Have you always had that like spirit?
Yeah, it was I'll probably go back. It was ingrained. I think like I can relate it back to my father. He passed away like 12 years ago, but and again, like I was saying, he was a cop and a Vietnam vet. He was a staff sergeant in the Marines. So it was like this son who was like he always supported everything I did, but he was also an artist himself, but it was never like that, like world of you do that as a job. He was like, I just want better for you. Like I was a cop. I never want you to break your back. And he really did.
Yeah, I see.
And so, but at the same time, it was like, we had this like external, I vividly, like, this is like, it sticks with me forever, is like, it's an external CD player, like CD thing, like had my gateway computer, and he like scrounged enough. He was like, computers are going to be a thing for you in the future. And like, I don't know, he just knew this guy who, and so we had that, and he was like, making mixtape, like making mixed CDs. And then he was like, oh, you know, you can like, you should make some and sell them to your friends, or like, it was just his entrepreneurial spirit.
He passed that on to you.
Yeah. And he was like an artist in his own sense. He made a lot of crafts, cradles. He was a wood builder. He was a craftsman himself, and he would go to art fairs and things, but like, that wasn't what you do as a career. That wasn't like, you needed to like get a job, have a pension, have like something you're investing
that
in.
generation for sure. Yeah.
But he also instilled in me like, be creative, be weird and funky, and like physically make things and enjoy and love people. So it was like,
I relate to this so much because
worlds.
My dad also passed away, and he was a journalist, a writer. So his parents were of the mindset of like, you can't be a writer as a career. You have to have a job.
Yeah,
like, you know, and you have to
yeah.
like, you know, like be either like a doctor or like, you know, an engineer or something. Cause they're Polish immigrants, and like, it was like, they came to America for a better life.
Yep.
And so like to be a writer just felt very like dead end. But my dad was like, no, I'm going to make this a career. I'll show you. And like, you know, made it a job. But that when you're a kid and you see your parent just behaving and interacting with the world in a certain way, and the way you're describing with the like making things and being a little weird and creative and artistic, that inevitably gets passed down to you. And it just changes how you see the world. And I've even seen, since my dad has been gone, and you might relate to this, is like once that person is no longer there, they're still living on in little things that you do. You're like, oh, this is a dad thing.
More so than ever.
Yeah.
Like it's super like.
Yeah. You see it and you're like, this is my dad doing this.
And then I claim it even more. And I'm like, yes, I need to do this now. And that's that. If there was ever a doubt to do something, it's like, no, I'm going full force into this.
Yes, because you have that, like, it's instilled in you. And especially, I think, when you have them no longer there, you see it more. But so you did start to, I guess the seeds were planted for you to kind of go after this, you know, like starting this startup and this company, and that was planted in you very young, or instilled in you, and then now you're doing it. But so until the point of Trellis and being the person that you are now, when you were in the music scene, what was your lifestyle like, as far as like, I mean, everyone knows the stereotypes that surround like punk rock.
Sure.
What was punk rock, JR, like?
Right. It might be a tale of two. I don't know how am I saying, a tale of two, whatever. I had a good home life. Like my parents had their own whatever, but like they were always saying like it was. So I had a good one. Like I didn't come from a broken home, but at the same time, I don't know. Forever, I just always felt like I was alone in a room. Forever. Like no matter what, no matter how much love anyone could have given me, I just was always like
isolated,
alone in a filled room. Like,
interesting.
But then so when like music, punk rock, it came out, and I actually like, it was a kid in Boy Scouts who had a Rancid in a patch and a Casualty patch, and I was like, that's it. And then that's literally, I got into that because of that, because like
the camaraderie.
And then so it was like, all right, it was off to the races with like hard music, got into hardcore, and like the music really got me. It was, you know, Agnostic Front, Sick of It All, the Bouncing Souls, the whole like gamut of like a lot of like New York, East Coast punk rock. And just so happens I also grew up around the block from a few of the guys that started playing in Agnostic Front in these bands, and took me as a younger kid on tour with them to sell merch. And I was like, my second year, I was in college, and I was like convincing my teachers, I'm going on tour to.
Wow. What years was this?
2004 and
so
5.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, 2004 and 5. And I was like convincing my teachers, I'm like, it was when I was going to school for accounting, and I'm like, I'm doing all the accounting for these bands, and I'm the tour manager. And I really wasn't. I was just selling merch, and I'm just like, I'm doing all this like stuff. It's like an internship, but like
you're seeing it as a business.
Yeah.
Like
and I was
pitching it to the teachers as like, this is my business.
Meanwhile, I'm just like slanging t-shirts and in the mosh pit the entire time for like a month across America. Like, but it was definitely that was my word. That was like my experience with it. And it definitely was home, and it also obviously it cultivated like a creativity. It cultivated entrepreneurial.
So how did drumming, how old were you when you got a drum set?
Third grade, I started drumming.
Okay. Wow.
Like, yeah. Third grade. My parents they were super into it too. They like let me have my drum set in the living room. We didn't have like a big house, so it was like drum set in the living room. I'd have like my band over in the living room every Sunday, like playing loud music. They didn't care. Like they just let
That's
me.
great. And if they
Like,
let you
dude,
kinda
everyone's just like, how do you let your? And they, I guess, just wanted the kids to be there and playing loud music in
It's almost
the living
sometimes
room.
I feel like with parents, I don't know this for sure, but I feel like they want, if it's going to be happening or like, you know, kids, it's like have it in your own house because then you kind of have a little bit of a sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
But that said, was there any, like, did you get wrapped up in the lifestyle aspect of being a musician?
Not like, I don't think in like one of the cliche senses, but I definitely was like, not like hardcore partying, but like it was always out. Like I was always doing something out, drinking, doing stuff, whatever. I was like definitely like it took up a lot of time.
Right.
And then those, you know, like a night ended up being maybe not like 2 days of partying, but just like canceled the next day because it was just like a late night out with the band going this, that. So it was definitely like part of the world, but never anything
bad.
Bad.
Or like bad.
Yeah. Bad.
Because I
like,
relate to that
you know,
actually.
like,
Because like, so when I came to New York, the music scene, this was in 2007 is when I came to New York. And so it was like I mean, that's not the early 2000s, but anyway, so the music scene spoke to me. I was the girl at all the shows. Like I went to everyone's shows. I was friends with all the local bands, like especially the Williamsburg crew of friends and stuff. And, you know, the going to the show culture and then also like going out after band practice and hanging and stuff. And at least I have a similar experience where it wasn't like there was stuff going on, like drugs and drinking and stuff. But really the people that I was around, they were really focused on the music. And that was the crux of it all. And so I think, you know, I definitely got caught up with the lifestyle a little bit later on, but in the beginning, it really was this sacred situation of like we're all just like so focused on our craft and our art and making music that was the thing. And so it wasn't so much about like the sex, drugs, and rock and roll aspect.
I was the young kid too. Like when I joined my band, I was 15. They were 20 and 25. So like, and they were like, you're never going to like, you don't smoke, you're not doing it on our watch. Like I had to like literally, I turned 21 and like, they were like,
good, yeah.
All right, whatever you want. Like literally like, or then when it came like graduated high school, I was like, all right, I can tour forever now. Like I don't have no more school. And they were like, no, you're going to go to college. Like literally. Wow. So I was 21, they're like 30. He was like, they were like, you have an opportunity to go to school. You're going to school. We'll play in the band, we'll tour, you make it work, but you have these opportunities in life, like do them. And they like made me at the same time of like, we'll take you across America, we'll do these things. They were just always looking out for me as like the younger kid, I guess.
Wow.
So it was,
that's really special.
A different dynamic.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Easily been the other way of like, oh yeah, you've never smoked pot. Here's your first joint.
No, it was funny. They wouldn't let me. It was like, not on my watch.
That's
like
great.
It was Josh and Frank. It was, we're still friends to this day.
That's great. Like
I had a
mentorship or like a older brother or something.
Yeah, it was all these weird dynamic. It was definitely like I mean, I'm talking about it now. It's like it was that special of like a thing.
Yeah. And so when you were getting more into the music stuff, is that when you strayed from the hockey sports?
Yeah.
Life?
So I played.
You chose,
yeah. My first year, I was playing hockey in my first year of college, and I like was over it. And I knew it wasn't going to be in the NHL or anything like that. I probably knew way before that, but like it was definitive. This isn't my life. And I moved home after my first semester upstate, and I just started playing with the band full time. Like I'm playing with the band full time, but like doing that, like that was my thing. From there, it was like music and school.
100%.
Yeah.
And so when and how did running come into the picture?
All right. So
so let's back up. So you founded this running club.
Yep.
No Sleeping Running Club.
Yes.
Which I'm assuming no sleeping has a little to do with the entrepreneur sleeping on the factory floor. Like, I mean, I don't know. That's
you can take it a lot of ways. No, you can take it a lot of ways for sure. It like, well, really quick, like no sleep, like don't sleep on it. Anything in your life, it's like no sleeping. You can't sleep on your laurels. You can't sleep on anything.
Because that's like lately I've been like working, firing off on all cylinders, and like 3 hours of sleep the past few nights because I'm just like work, and then I'm like, but that just sometimes you just have to do it.
We
you need to sleep.
You need it, but then
you also need to go after
sometimes
stuff.
You need to do it, and it's fun. It's funny, like so. Losa and I, my like running partner, if you will, like confidant of. We got into it together, but like it's the like sometimes like it was like sleep so you don't have to sleep. like get your rest so you don't have like get your rest. Like I don't know if that's like just us getting older, but
that's really funny.
Yeah, but I got into running 3 years ago, and it was a lot of like lifestyle changes, and I think this is where a lot of our dots start to connect. Yeah, here we go. Exactly. It was I had I became a pescatarian. I just started like thinking more about like just better decision making in life. So I'm turning 37. So like I guess at 30, I don't know, maybe that number hit me, but I just started like thinking about better decision, not even better decision making, but like actually thinking about decision making, not just like doing things. Like why am I doing it? I started questioning more as even I got older. So that's when I became a pescatarian, stopped eating meat, wanted to try to get a little bit more like eco-friendly, but also meant like, I don't know, maybe all that stuff isn't really good because I was just like slamming burgers and Red Meat all the time. It works for some people, I don't know. It wasn't for me. I was like not very healthy at that time. Then like, so that was like, it was like a lot of decision making that led up to running came into play when I was like, I started working on my, like the coffee thing. And I really was like, I need to make a move in my life. I need to like, this is my defining moment. I don't know. I defined my own moment of like, now's the time. What do you need to do to achieve what you want? And a lot of what I talk about with some friends is like getting things out of the way. Getting like, I don't drink. So like getting drinking out of the way. I was like, I went at so many, like I was doing so many things in my life and that was a part of it. I was like, well, none of those like panned out. Maybe if I remove that, I do something, maybe this will pan out. So it was like getting out of my own way. So that was like one of the things. And then when it came to running, it was actually like right before, I guess it was the beginning of 2019, end of 2018. Me and Los, we were like working out. We were both like separate, working out, seeing each other, like posting like their times on a treadmill. And then we just started like literally bantering to each other, like nice time. And I started running outside and I was like, you need to run outside, like, get off the treadmill. And he was like, well, then I'll run it. And then I will like post a time and then it would be like, oh, that's great. And like super camaraderie about it. But like his time was always faster than mine. So and then I'm like, okay, my time's going to be faster. And then it was like that was running.
That's
like
motivation.
It was motivation. Yeah. And it was always like, yeah, that's great. But at the same time as you're walking away, it's like, I'm going to crush you next time. I'm going to destroy your time. But that's great for you. Yeah, like, so job. It was literally just the two of us. And I hated running. That's probably why I'm not an athlete. I didn't make it in hockey because I didn't become an athlete first. I think that was like, I wasn't like training and becoming an athlete as a human. I just was a hockey player.
I see.
I was like fueled by like energy, coffee, drinking, whatever. I was like fueled by just energy, not physically being an athlete, which I think it was
the discipline of training.
Yeah. Being an actual physical athlete, then being a hockey player. I just wasn't. So then this time around, I hated running. I started liking it. It gave me time to be in my own head. I was doing so much. Running was like an outlet. That 30-minute run of me just like actually like shutting down. It was like calming to run because I wasn't thinking about everything I was doing, like trying to start a business, trying to do this, making business decisions, like all this stuff. And a lot of it was with my girlfriend Colleen. We were making better decisions together. We're getting older in our relationship. It was like longevity started being important. Like
you start to see this. Oh, I have to figure this out if I want to age gracefully.
I can't even. And I started like I wasn't in the best shape to say the least, and I just wanted to be in better shape or just like longevity, right? Like, so that was running. That was where running started. It was like, I was lucky again, like stars aligned. It was like, I had a friend who was doing it too. So we were
that makes it almost a little bit like you get a little bit more motivation because you're comparing and in a healthy way and like going back and forth. And that, I think that's great. I have had a very similar thing where someone that I was seeing or when I was dating someone way back when I got into running several years ago, that was the same thing. We were on the treadmills and it was literally, how far did you run in an hour? I ran that far. Oh, really? Okay. Next time I'm going to beat that. Cool. And then it just goes back and forth. But one thing I stumbled upon as I got more into running and was running with other people and not just one other person was the community and the run clubs. And so you guys start a run club.
So we did, So we started running and like this is that entrepreneurial spirit. Like right away, we were even making jokes and like we laughed about it. We ran our first K together, like outside. I can't even lie. I was like in tears when I finished my first K, and like I was like pulled together. I was like all these
so
things.
funny.
I was like literally in tears. I never thought I could do that. Like I never thought I was a runner.
Yeah.
And then I ran a 5K and I was literally in tears. It was like such like a self, like I did this. Like I did this for myself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like did it.
Yeah.
And no one, it had like nothing to do with anyone. Like not like nothing to do with anyone, but like no one was going to run that race for me. That 5K, like I did that.
And no one really knows what these times mean. Like, I mean, some people know what these times mean, but like, I know for myself, like the difference between running a 16:59 5K between a 17:03 5K, for me, it's 4 seconds. But that was a really big deal.
Right.
I slipped underneath the 17. Oh my God. You know, it's like, there's like this idea that like that, but that to me, that validation, that feeling of like accomplishment is so awesome, but nobody else really cares that much. But that feeling is everything.
I think those are important.
Yeah.
And I think those are important because they help you like, they help you be your best self so you can be your best self for other people too. Like you have to be in a good, to help other people. If you're someone who wants to help people, you have to, so you're confident to help them do their things. And then that's part of that, the call that like part of the club. Yeah. So now like I'm doing this to be my best self, if you will. And then Los was doing that too for himself. And then, so we ran that first 5K and we were literally joking with that entrepreneurial spirit. We're like, run one 5K, start Nike. And then like 3 weeks later, we were like, maybe we should do something. And then like 3 weeks after that, the pandemic hit. So, and then it was like, crap, like, what are we doing? So then we were just online, like posting our times and like getting a lot of people to just like, they were like seeing us posting every day. And like, I'm running too. And it was like mothers, his cousin, my cousin actually like runs like Ragnar's to all the, like every marathon I think he's been in. So he was like, at the same time, I always like had that in my peripheral of like someone as my cousin John,
real runner.
Yeah. Like, so I had that and I was like, one day I'll get there, but I'm playing over here with just like me and Los doing 5Ks. And that was the running club. Really, it was like together apart, but you're just like running, we're posting times. And it really resonated with a lot of people that were like, you never ran, I don't run. I'm like, no, you can. And they just started throwing their times, just like sharing on our stories. That was it. Like that was the club. And then we were like,
like a community.
Maybe we should make a page. Like, let's make an Instagram handle on this. And like, very like, maybe we should, even though we were like, we definitely want to. We're like, okay, we'll do that. And then like things just kept snowballing from there with, meeting more and more people. The Woo Crew, like up in the Upper West Side, they run every Monday night. Like go to those runs. Long Island has a lot of like really community-based runs. They have state park runs that you're like outside, like just that community. It was like I fell in love with it. I really did. I'm still in love with it now.
So, I really want to know about your, like this company that's kind of new, not new, but it's coming up into the running community more and more. Everyone's hearing this name is the Diadora.
Yeah, for sure.
And when I say new or not as known, I mean that like so many people just think of Nike, Adidas, New Balance, but there are these smaller companies kind of taking over, and I would consider them to be one of them because the running focus seems to be on something different than just being on a podium as the best runner in the world. It's more about a vibe. And so like, what is the story with Diadora?
So, we got, Los and I got like No Sleeping Running Club. It's always like no sleeping, right? It's something bigger than us. It's not us. It's the club and what people see it and how they believe. So that's like, well, just first and foremost, like, I think that's important. But with Diadora, their marketing manager, Alexander, had met us through crazy chance happenings, and they met us, and he just loved what we were doing and what his like team and what Brian, who leads Diadora USA, was instilling in his team with, you know, like, don't, like, I guess at least what we've been told is, you know, look for the right people, look for people who are doing it, whatever it is, you can figure it out. You know, there's vibes, there's like connection, there's energy, and like whatever that it is, support them. So they were, I guess they saw what, not even I guess, like they saw what we were doing and were like, we would love to support you. And so that was, and then right away we started having these connections of they're like ingrained in the music world, conscious living, a lot of vegetarians. I don't eat meat. Like I don't, are a part of that. So it kind of made it very relatable and easy for us to say like, hey, let's start working with this brand that is so closely aligned with music, ethos, and they are off the beaten path. Like we're off the beaten path. We're not rock star runners. We're just running.
Yeah.
And that was such the relationship. And I think the parallels of why they were like, we want to support this little run club. We don't care how small you are. Like, let's support a little community. Let's support community. Awesome. You guys are building community. Let's support community. And that's a lot of what they're doing.
That's really cool. I love that. And I've just been noticing more and more with these brands that's becoming more mainstream. And I think it's for the best, because I think it used to just be about a certain aesthetic of like the end all be all. Like, I don't know, where runners were just runners and they're walking around in their race shirt and it was like the neon and I don't know, like there's just this thing, and that was never me, and I never wanted to be that kind of runner. And so I like seeing the like alternative to that, which is people who just are other things, and like you do a bunch of things, and like you're an entrepreneur and stuff, and like having the running be kind of like this it's like the thing that kind of allows you to do the things that you're doing in your daily life.
Yes,
what you're actually doing.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of the club. Like that's the motivation we want people to know. Like that's it. Like it's run so you can do more. Like and like
that's awesome.
Literally, that was our thread, and that was like Lois and I think that was our common thread. And he had his own, like he has his own career too as an entrepreneur and doing his own show. He has a TV show on Revolt TV. So like both of us we have our own things, and like when we would run, like after the run, we would like powwow and talk about like what are you working on? What are you doing? And then we would run with other people and ask them what they're doing. How can we connect? How can I add value? I don't know. Like I was running like that. It was like that world of like, ooh, we just like sweat this out. You just had a moment. I just had a moment. Now we're having a moment together after that run. And that was a lot of that connections in the running, like through running, that like built those relationships and made it even stronger to go out and like tackle the world after you're done.
I totally get that. And you know, somebody who really speaks to this is Casey Neistat, because he's a really good runner. I don't know if you've seen his times and stuff, but Casey's like, you know, YouTuber, like, storyteller, but then he's also this runner, and he straight up just uses running to like get out the extra energy and then go do the thing of like making a video or something. But some of his friends that he's in good company with are people like Neve Schulman, who's also this runner who had the show Catfish on MTV. And it's just kind of cool to see like that kind of runner where they're doing their thing, and then they just use running as like this like tool to kind of help them do the thing that they're actually focusing on. And I relate to that a lot too.
It comes from like, or at least for me, it was like the music world too. You got like Arthur from Gorilla Biscuits, John Joseph from Cro-Mags.
He's like my buddy.
So there you go. Like watching this crazy old, I don't want to call him old man, but like watching this crazy older guy who's like vegan over all this thing, like Iron Man, doing all this stuff. And like I grew up like watching that band, going to these shows, and now he's healthy and is like yelling at you to be healthy. Like, I want the best for you.
The reason
like,
I'm plant-based is because of JJ, like literally like seeing him just doing what he's done in his age and stuff. But,
so that was that word. And that's like, it's like empower you to go and be your best. So it was like, I do all this and then I'm going to go like rock out on stage at night. And that's like, empower. That was that like, so like getting active, like being very active and taking that into what you do is there. Like, I don't know, that was like one of those like parallels of like alt meets the world. And that like that for me made even like made it, I don't want to call it like accessible, but it just was like, running's cool. The hardcore guys are doing, I don't know, like not that it wasn't,
true.
But it's like
I think that's becoming more now, because I don't think so much in the past people were putting two and two together, but now it just seems to be like that's where things are going, and like trying to improve longevity and stay healthy and do the things you can do to be doing what you're doing for a long time. Like John Joseph playing shows, you know, in his later years or continuing his career. It's really inspiring to see. But so then like let's talk about sobriety. And so you've been sober for 2 years, and so
there'll be 3 in July.
I mean, that's a huge part of longevity for me. I've noticed I'm almost 3 years sober, not continuously. I had two minor little slip ups, but I mean like 3 years cumulatively of sobriety. And I've noticed so much of how I do it. I started doing it for one reason after hitting a rock bottom. And now I'm seeing how it's also like there are all these things that are coming out of it that I didn't expect, which are one of those things is I just feel better. And I feel like I'm keeping my youth in a way by not engaging in debaucherous drinking.
Yeah.
So what's the story for you with getting sober and staying sober?
Sure. It definitely was part of that, like that kind of, we were talking before with like decision making, drumming, wanting to achieve things. So like I was like dabbling with this idea, like maybe I won't drink, maybe I won't drink. And then it also relates to a lot more of like, I guess I was like growing up in like the hardcore scene. It was like you had your like Youth of Today's and straight edge was definitely a thing. Like, so it was always there. It was like a very big thing. And I loved all those bands and I like really liked it. So it was like a thing in the back of my mind along with being vegetarian, all this kind of stuff. But like, it didn't come out until later. Like, and so like those bands, and actually like one day, even when I was really younger, at first I was like into like Face to Face, 7 Seconds, Gorilla Biscuits, H2O. And someone asked me, like, are you straight edge? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, that's your favorite bands. And I'm like, I didn't even know. Like, I didn't know that they were all like straight, like in that world. I didn't even know. I just loved their message, positivity, PMA, like this whole thing that I just didn't even know was me. I just really liked drinking back then, but I loved that PMA and that like that world. So then when it came to drinking, I went out. I got wasted one night. Nothing crazy. Didn't like do anything bad. But I woke up the next day and I'm like, today's it.
Wow.
And I do things like cold turkey. Like I woke up one day and I was like, I'm gonna stop eating fish. Like, and like if I plan it and tell people, it won't happen.
Right.
But I know myself.
Just do it.
I just have to do it and say it to myself and then like start holding myself accountable. So that was, and I definitely started with like, I'll just do it for like a week. And then like a week turned into a month. And then the more and more people started telling me like, you'll never do it. And I'm like, I'm in. And I'm like, doubling down on like, not drink, like not doing it because of them not believing in me, but like doing it because of like, no, that's like, that's interesting. That was my journey with it. And then just like things started like more like time opened up. And at first I was still like going out, like I still wanted to hang out all the time. But then I'm like, it's still counter to why I stopped drinking. So I was still wasting time. Not wasting time being out with friends, but like, I don't need to be here anymore. Like probably those nights where, you go out and
you have the clarity to say the party's
done.
I can go home.
I'm good
now.
here.
No,
like
totally
I saw friends. I can go home.
I was social. It's 10 o'clock. People are getting a little tipsy. I can just peace out and go work on what I need to work on.
And then I can always I always was the driver too. So people started wanting to hang out more because I drove. I'm kind of kidding, but not. But like, but then I was also the ride home. So now I can leave whenever I want. My life is in my hands even more now.
Great, yeah.
So now I can
really see that.
I can just do whatever I want whenever I want because I'm not.
Yeah,
drunk.
and I also think there's something to be said about those social encounters you have sober are more valuable because you remember them. You're not losing yourself. You're not saying things out of like, having like being under the influence. Like I think things are more meaningful and you're more perceptive to different things that you get out of these hangs, like when you're sober.
Yeah.
And I definitely experienced that myself too. And so you started to see these positive things come out of just being sober. So it sounds like you just kind of stayed in it because you would see your life unfold.
Doubling up. Just like more and more things are happening, more and more dots are connecting. I'm having more and more time. I'm doing things more. I did have a few friends. Like I just went cold turkey. I didn't do like anything. I didn't go to like meetings. I did nothing. I just like stopped.
Right.
But I did have a few friends that like were sober as well. One for 7 years, one for 10 years, one for 30 years. And we're actually like partners in a brand together. So it was like people I was around that like I finally, so they were like kind of sending me messages, like not like once. My friend John sends me messages every day. Kathy even called it out. He sends me messages every day. I get a message like a script. He sends a message out to a group of people every day. And it's one of the most comforting things I have. Like
everything. I have a similar kind of thing.
It's really, really cool. Whether he knows it or not, hopefully he'll listen or see this, but he knows it. And I thank,
so amazing. It's everything.
Yeah,
the community that comes. So community that
yes.
comes with running, the community that comes with music, and the community that comes with sobriety. it's everything. And I think that I have a lot of reasons to stay sober. My life has changed for the better, but I also having people like even today, I wake up and I have a text, hey, I'm getting a chip at a meeting, like someone that's in my chat or whatever, gonna, celebrate this milestone in sobriety. I'm like, yeah. And like, that makes me want to stay sober because I'm like, I want to stay in this cool club of like, us supporting each other, of being our best selves versus whatever else, but that's great.
The sober world feels like it's always kind of been around. Like it's in all the subcultures I've been in. I just wasn't part of it, but it's been a thing. It hasn't not been here, like been around me. I wasn't on that. So I didn't like try that side of things.
Yeah. So and you also can like retroactively look back and see that and go, oh, there were like, I can look at myself and I'm like, oh yeah, I had a roommate who was sober and that's interesting that they were that close, but I didn't really know to like go into that club. But
it's like like being around. And then now I'm enjoying it, and I think, I actually like love the taste of beer. Like I love drinking IPAs. I still do athletic. I will say like athletic. Yeah. I got into it like heavy. I actually so I got into that. I was like slamming those, and I still drink them all the time, but like, and there's plenty more now. Like 3 years later, like every brand, I was just at Brooklyn Brewery the other night. They have their
all the NA.
All the NAs is like a huge thing now, and I love it. Brewed off from London. Like I like love all these things. I'm ordering them online. It's really easy because you can ship it. But like I still like drinking beer. People think I'm weird. They're like, it's empty calories, and I'm kind of like, I don't care. I still like, it's like, I don't know, but I don't want to get drunk. I do like elevated drinks, seed lip. I love like making nice drinks with elevated experiences.
And like make it your own. Like, and I've noticed too, like it's so much more accessible to be a sober person these days because of these brands coming out with the 0% alcohol. And so it makes it a little bit easier. And I also think it's a little bit more respected than it ever was. Like people get it. If you say I'm not drinking or I'm sober, and you don't make it a thing, I think other people are like, okay, good for you. And whereas I think maybe it wasn't so much the case maybe in previous generations, but yeah, no, I've just noticed my life unfold in such positive ways that it's almost like the pros definitely outweigh the cons, or like I see so much validation in daily life with it.
You're doing this, like like things that you've had. That's awesome.
Just being perceptive and having clarity, like that's everything. And even just like laying my head to the pillow at night knowing that everything that I did that day was something I chose to do, and it wasn't like under the influence or something.
Or missed that day. Like I feel like the older I got, I started missing the next. I used to be able to wake up. I never got hungover in my entire life until like, I can't say a few years ago because a few years I haven't been drinking for years, but like a few years before I stopped, like I started like, I was so like, true. Oh, tomorrow, like I wasted tomorrow. And I'm like, I just wasted a day. I hate myself.
And that guilt, that's such a thing of like, you're buying time. So when you drink, you're taking away from tomorrow's productivity, tomorrow's joy, like all kinds of stuff. And so it's just like this, and it's also just like taking away just a quality of life. But yeah, I think once you start to see that, it's hard to unsee it. And then it's hard to justify drinking because you're like, but don't get me wrong. I mean, I have to actively, I'm in recovery, and like on a daily basis, I'm like very much like keeping myself in check and staying humble and not getting too cocky within my sobriety of like, it's so much better on this side. Cause like, it can be, you can find yourself in the throes of temptation, and you have to keep yourself in check with it. At least I do. But my life is just, it's so easy to see how much better it's gotten by staying above the influence.
And you can see it because you have clarity too. Exactly. So that probably you have a perspective to be able to see what's actually going on now too. So I'm
it was
sure
easy to turn and look the other way when I was in the thick of it in the old days. But so what do you see for yourself in the future? Like say 15 years from now, what is JR doing? What does it look like? Wow. 50 to 20-ish.
Oh, wow.
2045.
2045. What am I doing? I hope I'm doing much of what I'm doing now. Like I really like what I'm doing. Like I hope I'm still, whether it's I hope obviously Charles will still be around. We'll still be helping for this. I hope that's it. And I hope I'm able to expand from there and help other communities and things in ways the same way I was with Trellis with small businesses. I hope I'm able to continue doing that. I hope that the running club is still around. I hope I'm still running. I hope that we can connect with more and more people and like inspire them to do what they want to do through being empowered by running. Like, I hope that's still happening. I hope, like I'm a family, like, you know, I'm looking toward that with, me and my girlfriend, we've been together forever. It's like, I think everyone's waiting, but like, that's like a thing, you know, that's definitely something. And I hope we're able to, we've been together for 10 years. We were friends for years before that too. And it's such like we've gone through everything together. Colleen Beatrix, like we've gone together through, like, my whole journey is part of her journey too. So we've we've been on this journey together of like, we met at punk rock shows. She was taking photos. I was playing drums. I've known her brother. Like, we've known each other for closer to 2 decades. Like, and
if you have that history, that's such an important thing.
Part of I guess where I see it, it's like, what are we doing? Like, we work together in Trellis. She's our marketing director. She's been with us from day one. She like helped us on so many things that we didn't even know we needed help on. And then as we started scaling, we raised money. We've like hired her full time, and like definitely that, like, where's our journey? Like, definitely part of my journey is that journey together. And that's like definitely a huge part of.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So I don't know where that'll take us, but
that's a sweet, it's sweet that you guys have that kind of partnership. And it sounds like, cause it started as a friendship, it's kind of carried on as like close friends on top of being together.
So it's like that friend that'll like call you out on anything and everything, and it's amazing. So she knows me, like she knows everything. So she saw me go through everything. She saw me as the former life like that, like punk rock JR. She saw me as freelancing, traveling JR. She saw me as like starting business, making decisions JR. Like, and she supported me that entire way. So I'm in 20 years, it'll be whatever we're up to.
That's so sweet.
Oh, man.
Whatever you guys are up to. Oh, that's so cute. I love that. So yeah, I think that this has been an amazing conversation. It's really inspiring actually to hear like your trajectory, and also have so many parallels and relate so much. So yeah, I hope that you got something out of this as well.
Oh, I did. No, this was great. I really feel, I love this experience. This was great. Like, thank you for having me. I love, it's like a little bit of a retrospect. It's cool to talk. To
just
see the world.
There's something about when you sit down and talk to somebody in a recorded setting, things come out of nowhere. But yeah, so I look forward to seeing how everything blossoms in the future for you. And for everyone listening to my show, thanks so much for tuning in. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at Lucie Beatrix, LucieBeatrix. And until next time, just be fast. Just win.